Welcome back to the devlog. I'm going to mix up the format. Basically, my plan is to go through the stuff that I've done for Alpha 3 and then also show a bit like in the code and the other files what I did without going into too much depth, but at least, showing stuff. And so the first thing I added was basically spectator vision for people that are dead. The code is right here. So if we move away, something you'll notice is that we actually still have vision of these characters over here. And basically, this normally would only apply when my character's dead, but I can't get a third team in here for the dev tools. So that's why I'm showing it this way. The way I implemented it was with a modifier that gets attached to every character, or at least every hero. This is just a thinker-based modifier. And basically what it does is it says, okay, we're going to get the current hero's team number, and we're going to get a list of all the heroes, look through all of them, see which teams have any person that's alive, and then after that, cycle through all the teams. And here you can see where I changed the logic to make it work in development mode. But normally it would say, okay, if the team number isn't the current team and it doesn't have anyone that's alive, then there's this add FOW, like fog of war viewer method, and basically it accepts the team number, it accepts a location, the radius for the vision, the duration of the vision, and I forget what this is, it's not too important. So basically every second, because this thinks every second, it checks to see who all is dead or has everyone dead, and then it adds vision for 1.5 seconds. And so actually, if we were to aggro these characters, actually I don't think I can probably get far away enough for it to show. Okay, so take 2. If I just walk up and stun them, you can see that the circle is like following basically, and yeah, it's not moving, it's just a new one is getting applied every time. So that's the spectator stuff. That's how I added it. The next thing I want to talk about is changes to basically health regeneration. So we see that I've lost a bunch of health. I'm just gonna kill this NPC real quick, and you can see that now I'm at full health. Upon killing an enemy, or upon an enemy dying more specifically, it will recover some amount of damage proportional to the amount I dealt. In these cases, it's always going to be 100% because I'm the only one that can deal damage. But like in an actual game, if 2 people dealt half damage to someone, they would both recover half of their health, basically. Alright, so here's the code. 2 modifiers, the take damage and the modifier on death. Something kind of funny about this is that the on death modifier basically figures out who killed the player and then decides to heal them after. So I just think that's a little bit funny and a bit of an implementation detail. So it gets the current hero, it figures out, okay, we need to make sure that the recipient of the damage is the current hero, because this will log for literally every single instance of damage, whether or not you are the recipient or not, or even the person dealing the damage. It figures out the percent of damage that was dealt. If it's not a hero, then it just says the attacker's null, which this will get skipped later. But otherwise, assuming this is a hero and they dealt damage and the current hero is the recipient of the damage, we do some bookkeeping. And Lua doesn't have lists, and so I just have this next index field that just keeps track of things so I can go in an order, basically. So at the end we increment it so that on death, we can basically roll back the last instances of damage until we total to 100% damage dealt. Basically the idea is that if someone gets half killed 10 times in a match, we don't want to heal everyone that ever dealt any damage, just the people that dealt the last 100%. So we go through, we have the current total healed. This is a fraction of the total thing. So once it reaches 1.0, that means that 100%, or 1/1, has been healed and returned to the people that dealt the damage, basically. So we look up the current stuff with the current index, which the current index starts at the next index -1, because that will have been the last one used. And we keep going down, healing people by bit until our total exceeds, the 100%, or the current index is -1, meaning that we have run out of stuff. And in theory, this shouldn't happen because someone should take at least 100% of their health as damage as part of, dying. But, you never know. Maybe it'll end up being 99.999, and this would otherwise be an infinite loop or go out of bounds or do undefined stuff. But that's basically the implementation of this, just a bunch of bookkeeping with the on take damage, and then just a bunch of healing to whoever helped kill the person with the modifier when they die. Okay, so if you don't have the option to kill someone, or you maybe barely got away with your life, there's also another option to heal now. If you get out of combat, which out of combat is defined as both not moving and not taking damage, so you can see I'm not recovering right now, but a few seconds after I stop, this regeneration number will start rapidly increasing, and so will my health. And update the position just to have the initial starting point in the game, set the stack count to 0, and start the thinker. If the heal delay is bigger than the number of stacks, we don't have enough stacks, and so return no healing. Otherwise, return stacks plus the initial boost. And so this is part of why it will ramp up over time. It's because it's based on the number of stacks. So then otherwise, we do some stuff to get the stack counts. Importantly, we only say to increase if we're not disrupted. And basically, the reason that this is here is because what can happen otherwise, the stat count will get reset, possibly from taking damage. And then the stat count will fire immediately after that. And then the issue was that, especially without the delay, there would be a little bit of regeneration before it stopped again. So to prevent that kind of like weird edge case, it's just need to make sure it's not disrupted, and taking damage causes disruption. And also movement causes disruption. So basically you need to be in a state where between this last tick and the current tick, nothing happened to make you stop gaining stacks, basically. And so we grab the old position, we update the current position, and just make sure that everything's the same as last time. And if it's not, then we set the stat count to 0 and set disrupted to true. And then we have the event on take damage, where basically just if the unit receiving the damage is the parent of this modifier, then we say, okay, reset the stat count and say we're disrupted. Yeah, one important note about the on take damage thing is that it is for all instances of damage, because I was having issues with this also firing when some of the other NPCs took damage too. So I'll show the disruption from movement in a second. So we have regeneration and now we don't. A bigger change to a lot of the weapon stuff is that now it will show stats if you hover over it. Previously, I think it maybe just had skill names, but now it says both the abilities and it has the stats. This one actually doesn't have a whole lot of stats. There's some other ones that have more. I think some of the melee ones, like this one will. Okay, yeah, so this one has health, it has move speed, it has attack damage. You can see it's also kind of nicely formatted. I say kind of nicely just because what I had initially was much worse because it was making like blocks for everything. We can take a look at how that's generated. Okay, so here's the code for making descriptions. The general strategy is just to have a list of lines that need to be in the description, just add to it over time, and then join everything. Initially I was joining on like breaks, but that was causing issues, and also there's some special cases here which wouldn't really be handled. The basic idea is use a bunch of HTML like stuff. Header 1 is the abilities. Then if we have an ability 1, make that in a new line. If we have an ability 2, then put that in a new line. Oh, and the game just crashed. That's cool. Then make an extra new line between that and the stats. And then just for each possible stat, add a line for that with breaks in between again, and join that up all in a string. And what that looks like in the actual editor, let's do a soft wrap, is just something like this. So this is what that generates into. It has the HTML stuff, it has, the breaks, the stats, and all that. You can see this one has a bit more because it has both health and move speed as well. Oh yeah, also I changed the description for Godbuster to you have the power of God and anime, because I also changed the oversized sword to the anime sword. Yeah, so I think that's basically it for this update. I also made like a bunch of little like kind of more fiddly changes for the weapons, and also obviously added some new skills, or at least the one for Drow. But that's kind of it. So anyways, if you stuck around, thank you very much. Any comments about, I guess, which format you've liked the most, if you're a returning viewer, would be greatly appreciated. Part of the reason I experiment is because I'm not really sure exactly what would be best. So I'm just trying things out. But anyways, catch you next time. Thanks for watching.